Okay, so we're going to head back on down to the feature match area to check on our other feature. We're trying out some time shifted magic here, and let's see how this goes. It's our first time trying this on stream, so let's see how it works out here. Might have some issues. Oh, a little bit of input lag on the top there. That's fine though. That's a feature of Discord and no official spectator mode.
This is the Dimir deck I was talking about at the top of the broadcast here.
Okay, yeah, we have Spartan the red here, another one of our previous open winners, looking like blue-black mid-range versus red-white feather here. And remember, this is an open deck list tournament, so if you're Spartan here on the bottom, you know that your opponent is playing a more aggressive deck on the top when you take that first mulligan.
Yep, this one should be interesting. I like the Gifted Aetherborn. I mean, again, this card does some absolute work against aggressive decks.
Yeah, let's get that one get that one pulled up there for us. Now, that being said, the red-white feather deck isn't necessarily a traditional aggressive deck, right? Like, it's not. It has a little bit more removal in it, and its creatures have protection as well to punch through things like Gifted Aetherborn.
Yeah, this is man, that's not what you want to see if you're on Spartan's end. This is another 5-drop in Ashiok, but
I mean,
but
to be fair, you're also pretty happy with the fact that your opponent hasn't done anything for the first 2 turns of the game, right?
exactly. And you have this Triome to cycle through, if you so choose. Too bad.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see the cycle. Really good decision on Spartan part here, by the way. They could have attacked with their Gifted Aetherborn to try and farm 2 life, but again, deck lists are open, so they know that their opponent has access to haste creatures like Tajik, so they left back the Aetherborn here.
Yeah, Murder Strider's pretty good. It's and man, those adventure cards are so good at doing 2 things, being multi-purpose, so able to kill something and then also try and start to gain back some life later.
We have an interesting choice here on both sides of the table. So we see Pomoyne here attacking with their 3/2, and then we see Spartan electing not to block because Tajik can elect to gain first strike.
That's interesting. I think it's fine no block, especially if you know you're going to play Ashiok the following turn.
Yeah, something that's super notable here is that our Feather player, Pomoyne on top, is missing their second white source. So not only can they not play their deck's namesake, Feather Redeem, but they're also very limited in being able to like double spell or like activate plus play another trick.
Yeah.
See that gifted Aetherborn getting in there, kind of buffering the life total up.
Yeah, Ashiok's, the creatures that they make that are 2/3s are just so good. They don't die to things like shock. It's going to take a resource out of Imon's hand. It's just really hard to get it to churn through this thing at this point.
Yeah, and Ashiok's ultimate here. So when you cast 3 face-up cards, your opponent you can cast face-up cards from your opponent's exile, and Ashiok's self-enabling, right? Like these nightmares are exiling cards off Pomoyne's deck when they attack or block here. I really like this block from Spartan here on the bottom. So they're forcing Pomoyne to make first strike there, but now they're tapped off of white mana, right? So that means their shields are down and they're able to like Murderous Rider or eliminate now this Tajik.
Yes, it's legitimately like a free block, as you mentioned, and Ashiok's self-enabling. So like you're incentivized to block with this Ashiok anyways. So it's going to be really tough to burn through this thing again. Like I said, 2 toughness on that creature. Ashiok's things live through and it's pretty rough at this point here. Gifted Aetherborn have lifelink.
Yep, and we see the shock here getting pointed at Ashiok. I think we're probably into garbage time at this point in this game. I'd be pretty surprised if our Feather player can come back from the board state we have going on here as another double white card gets added to hand.
So brutal, man. So brutal. Yeah, Spartan probably really happy to get game number 1. I think that's probably going to be the hardest. The Aetherborn lined up, and Hyman's mana just never lined up in this game. Funny, they just burned a shock and now there's a thief of sanity on the table. Brutal stuff.
Thief of
Nice.
Sanity. That's one. That's one we haven't seen for a little bit. Let's throw that one up there. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think that card's still
Yeah,
standard legal. It feels like a decade since I've seen that card played, but
yeah, it's just unplayable. But it's a Guilds of Ravnica card.
let's have our players going to sideboarding here. Oh no! Oh, whew. Okay, I was worried that both of them were going to be in list view there for a moment. Oh, we're going. Okay, so we're base black with a small blue splash in this
Yeah.
in this control deck for Phyrexian Obliterator.
Yep, the blue is really light. There's like Ops, Thought Erasures, and as you mentioned, the Thief of Sanity. And we saw Ashiok kind of pull its weight there.
It's really interesting that they've Spartans elected to go into blue for Thought Erasure as opposed to leaning into Agonizing Remorse.
Yeah, so I don't know. I could go either way on those two cards. They each have their merits. I think I'm with you though. It's kind of interesting. The blue's probably tougher to get to. I don't know how many sources they have. 12, it looks like here. Maybe some basics.
There's some Zagoth Triumphs in there too that help make the mana more smooth.
Yeah.
The big thing in my mind is not even just the castability, but Uro's an ever-present threat in this format, and being able to exile that card on turn 2 before they can ramp into it's often a big deal.
Yeah, that's for sure. 4 Phyrexian Obliterators. I'm into it. What else they have going on here? That Liliana Walker of the Dead is definitely an interesting one as well. Or Waker of the Dead, excuse me. I haven't seen much of that card being played, but there's a pair, and it looks like they're coming in actually in this exact matchup. Kind of interesting.
Spartan a little bit on the fence about how exactly they wanna approach things here. Languish, another new card that we're seeing come in.
Yeah.
For our blue-black player. Actually a fantastic sweeper in this matchup, because notably, God's Willing and Fight as One don't really protect from this, unless, of course, they get bigger than 4 toughness, right?
Yeah, Languish is really good. You see, like, they have Cry of the Carnarium in their deck, too. And Cry is fine, early, but it just doesn't do anything once the Legionnaires start to get rolling up, or
yep.
if a Feather.
Yeah, and it can never touch Feather, right? So yeah, Reckless Rage there, go right to the top for Pomoyne. The configuration of Spartan's deck is actually a little bit awkward from the red-white side of the table, because the Spartan's deck is controlling, but it also has creatures like Gifted Aetherborn in it, so you can't just cut your removal spells like you would like to.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's an odd push and pull for the Feather deck to try and come to a decision on, like, what do you want? What's too much of this? And it definitely looks good for Spartan's end.
Also, a bit of an awkward squeeze here that the blue-black deck's able to put on. Pomoyne electing to play their threat out before they have mana to protect it and getting punished for that. But even if they'd kept their threat in their hand, Spartan has a discard spell that would punish that decision, right? So they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Yep. Now they basically have the Boggles problem, where now they don't have a creature. They have 3 different pump/protection spells. But boy, that's rough.
Yeah, that very, very kind of wrong half. We had our one threat, it went away. We see the castle very quickly going to the top of the deck there, because that'll be an untapped land to enable the Phyrexian Obliterator next turn.
Yeah.
And we see Bone Crusher Giant roll off the top here for Pomoyne. Would not be surprised if we see that just come into play as a 4/3 here.
Yeah, you said it. Looks like it's coming down. Got to get on the board here.
And Obliterator is just going to gum this board state right on up here.
That's a gross one.
Obliterator very, very good against these red-based aggressive decks. They could just double Reckless Rage here, right?
They could. That's an available option.
It is a legal play, Matthew.
I don't know.
Those that are newer to Magic and don't maybe recall Phyrexian Obliterator, whenever you deal damage to it, you're required to sacrifice a number of permanents equal to the damage you deal. So had Reckless Rage targeted our Bone Crusher Giant here, they would have our red-white player would have lost their board.
Yeah, now like the bonus information you get off thought erasure is great. I mean, just one reckless rage hanging out in hand for Hyman. It's not great.
Very aggressive here for Spartan.
Big fan.
Just trying to get the game over with here before they find a piece of removal. Here's a question: is Pomoine playing any Justice Strikes?
I don't think there are. I will double check, but
That is, for those of you, if you find yourself under an Obliterator, that is quite possibly the best answer in the format to it because it makes the Obliterator player sacrifice their board.
they actually labeled their deck Boros Infect, so I'm sure Brad Nelson's gonna be really happy to go fix that one later. Yeah, no, there's no Justice Strikes in here.
Oh. Our mono black blue player here checking out some of their options. Yeah, probably see Duress hang out.
Sure.
I expect we'll probably see Duress plus Murderous Rider / Eliminate this turn after we get rid of the fight as one.
That's a beating.
See Bone Crusher Giant poking at them a little bit here. Interesting to see the Eliminate get played as opposed to the Murderous Rider. I guess this keeps their life total a little bit higher, but I kind of would like to get the Murderous Rider in play. Probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things though.
Just not going to matter, I don't think.
Yep, and normally like this is like the dream to set up the lock. If you're the Feather player, you've got like Reckless Rage and Feather Redeem, but Phyrexian Obliterator just gives you no counterplay, right?
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
See Obliterator come barreling in here. I bet we'll see Murderous Rider play out here as a 2/3.
Sure. Just gives you an extra lethal
Extra
attacker.
blocker. I guess it probably doesn't matter either way because it's technically a removal spell. And another brick off the top there. So pretty elementary game. I think on average these matchups tend to be hard for the Feather deck. Again, I feel like that the sequence on the first turn 2 to 3 really highlights what the challenge is, where you play out your threat without protection, it dies to a removal spell, you hold your threat so you can wait to play it with protection, you get blown out by a discard spell, you just like don't really have a good choice.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely things did not line up very well for the Boros deck. Not a lot could be done in that game. Decisions were kind of like, again, like you mentioned, they're face up basically. You have to play your guy or else you get Thoughtseize or whatever, discard effect, and the Demir deck just kind of picked them apart.
Yep. All right. So those are our two full matches for the